Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run over me.
Hi, this is Jan Lewis. Welcome to be my guest. Today we have back again Carlo Morrissey. Welcome
Morrissey.
back. Morrissey. I said hi. I got it right. Beautiful last name. He has got a new book this time, and it's called In a Borrowed Suit. Your cousin, he did that, right?
Yeah. My cousin is an artist, and he did the cover, Lou Genetasio, and he's been great as far as helping me with covers.
So he knew what the book was about before.
Yes. Oh, yeah. He read it. And,
Whatever gave you the idea to title it like that?
Well, it's two things. One is, what happens is this character, he's one of those beautiful losers in life who things keep going wrong, but he's very kind of rigid and socially awkward, and so he has a lot of strikes against him, but he ends up managing to shine through a lot of catastrophes.
The original hard luck kid.
Yeah. So he ends up needing to. He's very devoted to his mother, who's in a nursing home, and she passes. And so it's a comedy, even though that's not the kind of topic you
about
usually
the
think
funeral
of.
Did he tell everybody? Did he actually wear a borrowed suit?
Yes, so he did. So his sister, he has two sisters who are very different than the main character, Raymond, who his one sister's a bank executive, high power, high charging woman who knows everything and really scares Raymond. So he's got this suit in his closet that he's so proud that at 45 he can still fit into from his high school yearbook picture. But it's a corduroy suit, so it's a yellow corduroy suit, and so his sister kind of says, you can't wear this to a funeral, especially to your mother's funeral.
Yeah.
So she brings him a suit, one of her kids' suits, and that's where the title, In a Borrowed Suit. So he's going to wear this suit. Yeah. But there seems to be a miraculous change in Raymond. Slowly, he begins to blossom more, and he's still having one catastrophe after another. But by the end of the book, you see him kind of
come right back up for air, right?
Yeah, becoming more of a capable person.
Did you base it on anything you went through in your life?
No, it's just the idea that I think I got two other kind of dark comedies that are kind of like people who probably the world would pass by, and they're marginalized kind of characters, but circumstances hit them and really hit them. They kind of have a lot to kind of recover from, but they manage to, and they kind of become heroes. They're unlikely heroes, So and trying to keep it light and funny. So some very odd. Well, not odd so much as if one of these things happened to you, Jan, you would probably be saying one of these things that befall Raymond happens. You would think, okay, that's enough to talk about for several months. Yeah. But Raymond, in the course of 2 or 3 days. Gets like a punching bag.
It's like a merry-go-round of things happening to this guy. One thing right after another. We're talking with Carlo Morrissey, and he has written In a Borrowed Suit. It's what you call a dark comedy, right?
Yes, yeah.
It is very funny, and I'm already, these chapters I love. Chapter 2, I love this. Dead moms and bad cooks. Describe that.
Well, he's at the nursing home, and his mother does pass, and she's been at this nursing home for 19 years. And
19 years.
And Raymond is devoted. He sees her every day, and on Saturdays he brings her flowers, and she passes this day, and Raymond is socially awkward, and so he's a mess. He's crying, and the nurses try to comfort him, and he holds on to them too long.
Yeah.
So it's not really. It's beyond comforting. It becomes very awkward, and the women are becoming nervous, like, when are you going to let me go? And they kind of gradually move him along, and he ends up in the nurse's office, and then the cook comes up while the nurse is going to attend to Raymond's mom. the cook comes up, and he is a 60-year-old man who is overwhelmed by his job.
Yeah.
And he unleashes on Raymond, who just lost his mother.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like the mad cook, and the timing isn't the best for Raymond, but
You've got a good sense. He mentions timing. You've got a good sense of how to pull something together right at the right timing. Now, I've looked at all these different ones. Here's another favorite. He was talking about this before. Corduroy at a funeral. That's what his sister says you shouldn't be wearing.
Right. Yeah. And so and so his sister is, and Raymond is at this point sleep deprived, and he's so proud that he can still fit into the suit that he wore in high school.
Yeah.
And she thought it was a disaster then, and she's so surprised that he still has it. But it's the only suit that he owns.
Yeah.
And so she gets into this whole big thing about making him look good for the funeral, and so she's going to bring him a suit. And the suit's going to need alterations, and this brings in his landlady, who's 80 years old, and she ends up altering the suit for Raymond. And there's another problem there, because it knocks the old woman out, as far as it's too much work.
Right?
Yeah. So her sciatica kicks up, and so there's a problem getting her to the funeral, and Raymond has to kind of load her into the back of his van. And
his own tailor, seamstress. She's still working on it on the way to the funeral.
So she's
Having just been to a funeral, I think a good book in it like yours, if it goes like a movie in your head, that's how I enjoy a good book. As it starts, I can see it happening, and I can see the whole funeral aspect of it, and some poor guy coming in with a suit they're fixing it. It's like the bride coming to the wedding, and her gown it still needs a couple of stitches.
Yeah.
So he makes it into the funeral, okay?
Yeah.
And his mother knows he's in a good. Well, no, she's dead. So.
Right. And Raymond is unlikely, but it begins with the customer that he sees at the beginning of the book. She's a very attractive woman, so close to Raymond in age, and she's going through a difficult time. And Raymond kind of comforts her, but she's had this, and he repairs grandfather clocks. He tunes grandfather clocks, and she's been a customer for his over 20 years, and she's sexually provocative, which scares Raymond. But she's kind of really got a crush on Raymond, and it comes through. And this has really surprised Raymond's sisters at the funeral, that who's this gorgeous woman interested in our brother? Kind of. and with the suit, which is looking good, and it fits well now because it's been altered, and Raymond, it's such a contrast from the beginning. Hopefully. Raymond rises to the occasion.
Definitely. We're talking with Carlo Morrissey, and he has written In a Borrowed Suit. How can they get a hold of you and your book?
The book is on Amazon, so you can get it through Amazon, and it's also Book Lovers Gourmet Bookstore in Webster carries it. And some of the local bookstores in Worcester carry some of my other books, but they don't have this yet. Rootin Press on Chandler Street carries some of my other comedies. And
have you been to Chandler Press to give a presentation?
They had not yet, so hopefully that will happen.
We were just talking about a lot of the, what do you call them, the small bookstores?
Yeah, independent book dealers.
I have, since COVID especially, I've been able to find a lot of them around, and they're doing okay. They really are, like the Book Lovers Gourmet.
Yeah.
Ty Deborin. I always give her a little hello. We have a friend in a nursing home up in Webster, and when we go up to visit, we might stop in to say hi to her. It's a cute shop.
It's great.
They got old used books, new books, and artwork. We've had the artists on in here.
Yeah.
Now, chapter 13. There's a first time for everything.
Oh, yeah. And so Raymond has never really, he doesn't drink alcoholic beverages, but his sister Martha, who's coming up from California, has a a problem with alcohol.
Yeah.
She likes to party, and so Raymond ends up getting drunk for the first time, and so there's the problem there as far as, and then in the morning, his other sister, Vivian, the bank executive, who's very uptight, high pressure kind of woman, and wants everything exactly right, and it has to be by her, right. She sets the standards. And she discovers her brother, sister, and the landlady all drunk the next morning. and so it's kind of
You
like...
get these ideas, do they just come to you, Carl?
Yeah, well, yeah, the thing is, I try to find a character, and, a character I can be comfortable with. And put this person, just a regular person, average kind of guy, and have, one problem after another kind of beset him, and it's usually male, but have to have it kind of work its way through. So in the process, this character grows, and they become unlikely heroes.
Right. Is it easy? Do you sit down and it just comes to you all at once, or like a little by slow?
Slowly, yeah. I start to get familiar, like I get the character, kind of the thoughts of the character.
Yeah.
What this person's about. Then I start seeing him or her in different situations, and I say, yes. Then I start developing a backstory for them, and so they become like a real person in my mind.
Really? I see the same thing. It's like almost like a movie. I can see the different actors and the let's say the place where it's taking place and the way it's going in my mind, like a regular story. To me, I mean, that has to work. This is just, so many of us have been through, it's like one thing right after another. It's like, when does this end? But he morphs. He comes out of it a little.
Yeah.
He does. Now, A Woman on a Mission. Which one was this now? Was that his sister?
A Woman on a Mission was Mrs. Terrell, the landlady.
The landlady.
Kind of, because she only has a day to alter the suit. And altering men's suits is a difficult chore.
Yeah.
Because you have a lot of problems with the shoulders, getting them right, and reattaching sleeves and things like that. And she hadn't been doing it. She's 80 years old. She hasn't done this in a number of years. But she tackles this for Raymond because Raymond's mom was her best friend.
Yeah.
And they, lived in the same building. And so Mrs. Terrell, tackles this job, and unfortunately, it puts too much strain on her. She has a problem with her sciatica, and the only way she can be comfortable is laying flat down. So Raymond has a minivan that he uses for work, so he kind of loads Mrs. Terrell into the back of the van to get her to the funeral.
Where did you get this stuff?
So it's kind of like...
Keep going, this is great.
So it's kind of like... I thankfully, sciatica can be really miserable if anybody's ever had it.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Emergency room.
Yeah.
Right here, yeah.
So
there's not much they can do.
No.
I don't want morphine. Just tell me, can you do something or not? Send me home.
Yeah. So I had that experience once when I was much younger. I had a problem with sciatica, so that's kind of stuck in my mind.
Yeah.
And so the idea, okay, he's got the van. Okay, let's have her have problem. And this will add to the humor of it, hopefully. That
definitely. Oh God! It took you longer, as you said, to get it published out there.
Yeah.
But in writing time, less than a year, was it?
The writing time, this was about 18 months altogether.
That's pretty good.
It was like probably a year to do it, and then 6 months of rewriting and kind of like, hopefully polishing, tightening things up, and things like that.
Did you edit it yourself?
No, I had it professionally edited.
Good.
And so it's the thing with writing comedies for me. I'm working on a more serious piece now, but comedy's kind of like this is just personally, it's a relief for me to kind of have this world that's a little bizarre and humorous.
Yeah.
Because when you put on the news, there aren't many things that really bring you good cheer or a smile to your face. And that's the way it's always been. But we're living now, so it's what we're dealing with. And so for me, it's the comic relief
Yeah.
it kind of.
What does your family think about your book?
Oh, they're very supportive of the writing, and and really enjoy them. I've been very fortunate to have good support in regards to friends and family, and that makes a big difference too. Because the other thing, and I do go to a couple of writers groups that are helpful, because it's kind of like. Writing novels, it does take a while, and it takes a while to read them. So it's not like to say to a friend, "Hey, do you want to read this?" And then you plunk 200 pages in front of them or something. It's kind of a chore. So to have a few people, and thankfully I do have several people that read my work, and I respect them because they do a lot of reading.
What groups do you belong to?
I do go to a poetry group at Book Lovers Gourmet.
Yeah.
And they also have a fiction group that I haven't been going to in the last several months because of conflict with
Where
schedule.
is that one?
That's at the Book Lovers Gourmet also.
That's great. So from Worcester to Webster, how long does it take you to get
20 minutes, 25 minutes.
Okay, so from Upton, when we go to Webster, it's longer than that.
Yeah,
definitely.
So so it's not a bad ride, and I been trying to get more involved with poetry writing too, because I've also been writing more poetry in the last couple of years, and so there's a little bit more opportunities for poets, I think, to share their work.
You think so?
Yeah, that's the sense I'm getting, because there's a lot more open mics availability. In Webster, again, Book Lovers Gourmet does it, but also locally within the city of Worcester, there's some online kind of poetry readings.
You haven't been to
things.
Tatnock yet, right?
Tatnock Bookstore, not with this. No.
Yeah. But you were there once?
Yeah, I was there for about a year and a half ago with my book Lavender Skies, and then a few years back with another book, If You See Your Father, Shoot Him. And they're very, very
I remember that,
supportive.
especially if you see the father shoot him. I remember that. Carl, how can they get a hold of your book?
Again, it's at Amazon. It's on Amazon, and Book Lovers Gourmet Bookstore carries it. And I'm hoping within the next week or two to get it into the bookstores in Worcester. Root & Press usually carries my books, and Tide Pool Books on Chandler Street carries my other books. So.
And there'll be a copy here at the Upton Town Library.
Yes.
Our library is going to have a whole new home. That's what you may have seen it across the way up.
Oh.
Yeah, up Route 40. It's right here. It's beautiful.
Oh,
it's going to be
great.
the community center.
Great.
And it'll have our library and the senior center, or the community they call it. There'll even be a play yard for the kids.
Nice.
So I think that's pretty awesome.
It is.
We do. We need a bigger library.
Yeah.
Definitely. So tell us about this next book coming up.
Well, the next book is it's a serious book, in that it takes place around 1970 in a city kind of like Worcester. It's a fictional city called Thornton, and it's got three narrators. There's a woman who's alcoholic. She's in her late 30s. Very good-hearted woman, but struggling. She has a son who's 13, 14 years old, who has microcephaly,
Water in the brain.
a smaller brain.
Oh,
and he's limited cognitively, and then her older son, who's just turning 18, is transgender at a time when we didn't recognize that we were transgender people, and so he's one narrator. His mother's another narrator, and then there's a woman who's a career woman in the 60s when that was not easy for them to do, and she's got very traditional parents who kind of very upset with her, kind of living on her own, and she's discovering in her, she's just turning 40, that she's probably a lesbian. And this, again, has taken place in the late 60s, early 70s. And so the three of these characters, each carrying a heavy load, they kind of come together and become very supportive of each other.
How do they meet? That's what I was going to
Well, the alcoholic mother, she works in a florist shop run by the librarian's brother, and the librarian's parents are having health issues, and the alcoholic mother needs a place to live. So the parents have a two-family home, empty apartment. So the alcoholic mother and her transgender son and cognitively challenged son move into that apartment, and so that's how they get connected.
What's the title going to be?
One step. Well, it's called Feeding the Birds, and I was trying to say another because I'm also working on a similar story, but as a comedy, with similar characters. But this one, this more serious one's called Feeding the Birds.
With 3 narrators. Right. So the chapters are kind of, I've seen this before where there's a different person.
Right.
But they do come together at the end.
Yeah. Okay. So and it's kind of like I love Jodi Picoult's books.
Yes.
And she does this quite often and does it extremely well.
Yeah.
And so so that's where the inspiration came from, some of her works.
When do you think that'll be out?
Well, it's over 300 pages now.
Whoa!
And I think I'm about halfway done. So then it's going to have to get a lot of trimming.
This one has 2014.
Yeah.
I mean 214.
Yeah. But I think it's probably good. I would hope that it gets completed, the first draft, in about a year.
Yeah.
But this one's going to take a lot of editing. Because it's too large. It's already too large. It's over 100,000 words, and it's only halfway done.
Oh my God!
Yeah. So that's going to be a little different for me because usually when my comedies, one scene leads into another really smoothly.
Yeah.
And
like this one. I think. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. So we got to wait about a year and a half for the next one.
Yeah.
Were you a writer when you were a kid?
I always had stories going on, and before I graduated from college, I finished a historical novel. Yeah. So I had that interest, even fairly young. And then I got away from writing a bit and started doing more painting and visual art stuff, and then I got back to the writing in my 30s. Yeah.
What were you doing for work?
I've been primarily working in human services. I worked as a school psychologist at Doherty High School before I retired, and before that I worked at the Department of Youth Services.
Do you have your PhD in psych?
I got a doctorate in education and background, but concentration was in school psychology.
High school or which?
High school, mostly high school.
Yeah.
But
that is awesome. Don't worry about it. It'll go off, right? We just hear the song. You can turn it off if you want. Oh, it's over there. All right. Well, it's just music, right? So you went. How many years were you a psych at the high school?
14 years.
That's a lot by today's standards.
Yeah.
People stay maybe a year or two.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah. The thing was, because I worked 20 years with the Department of Youth Services, and then I needed a change for a number of reasons. And it was great. I loved it at the high school. I loved it working at DYS too, but it was getting too much.
Was it sort of like being a guidance counselor, helping them which colleges to go to?
Well, with the school psychologist, mostly what we did was assess kids who were having learning problems.
Yeah.
Most of them were academic and cognitive related. Some were emotional or behavioral kinds of problems, and try to assess the problems and figure out the needs. And at the time when I'd been retired from there 9 years, so
you retired early.
Well, it was 62. Yeah.
Really?
So
okay.
yeah. So but I still teach. I teach at Quinsigamond Community College.
We had quite a while back. I forgot her name. God forgive me, but she was the president of Quinsig, and I know they have a new one now. She was terrific.
Yeah.
They give.
Carberry? Was it?
I think so. She was kind of a little bit heavyset. Very, very good presentation, and she was smart. You could tell she liked kids, and I loved the way she was individualized it. I said, if somebody's coming in for the GED, and let's say they're a little too scared to come in for that. They did awful in school, right?
Yeah.
Bad. And I said, what do they have to keep up with everybody else? She says, no, they can tailor it to the person. So, like, if you're a kid coming in, you want to have your GED. Let's say you did lousy in math, and you're scared to death to even try it on a GED. They will, as long as it takes, they will walk you through it. I was so impressed. Because I know back in high school, we had it's amazing I made it through my sophomore year, but unfortunately I took all the college prep courses. And unfortunately that meant you had to take the real serious math stuff, the trig, algebra, which is to this day not a part of my life. It's just like torture. And we had the kind of teacher who explained it once and would get furious if we needed to explain it again. So my parents got me a tutor, a senior. I thought she was great. I listened to her. Let's put it this way. I sneaked by and passed. But it was a horrible experience.
Yeah. Quinn Sigmund has gives their students a lot of supports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do. And I like
really
that.
do.
That's
they
really good.
Do.
Where did you go to school?
College?
Yeah.
Worcester State, then Clark, Anna Maria, and then Clark again. So
yeah.
I ended up with 2 bachelors and then a master's from Anna Maria in counseling psychology, and then my doctorate at Clark.
You're too young to remember. My grandfather graduated Clark in 1908.
Wow.
And do they still have the debating team?
Probably, I don't know.
Yeah, he was on that.
Yeah.
Majored in economics.
Yeah.
I mean, he took Latin or something. He was a whiz.
Yeah.
Oh, whiz. I don't know. But Clark, I took my son to visit Clark and look in the archives. They saved the yearbook from 1908.
Yeah.
And to me, it was just such a pleasure. They don't let you touch the pages because it was so old. But they will show you pictures. It's really, but you're too young.
Right.
You went and you graduated a kid. Thank you for being with us, Carlo.
Well, thank you.
You got to let me know about the next one coming up.
I will.
All right.
Definitely.
Go out and get yourself in a borrowed suit. Or come on down to the library here in Upton and borrow a copy. It's funny. It's really good. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time and be my guest.
Riding on a shooting star, heading out toward a dream. Tomorrow's even closer than it seems.